that, Dallas didn't even exist. Okay?
Oh, wow.
There was no place called Dallas. Dallas was founded in 1841, and remember, the Alamo was in 1836. So 5 years after that happened, Dallas came about. And it was founded by a guy named John Neely Bryant in 1841. But before that, you know who lived here? The Native Americans. And one of the primary tribes are the Caddo. And the Caddo still exists, most of them in East Texas now. Matter of fact, they even have a reservation in East Texas right now. But those are the people that lived here. And if you want to really get a feel for what Dallas is or was like at that time, and I know a lot of you are too young, but some of you remember Marshall Dillon, right?
Yeah.
Gunsmoke, Miss Kitty, Doc, Chester. And you guys remember how it always worked out, right? A bad guy rode into town, set up shop in the Long Branch, caused some trouble, and usually at the end of the show, the marshal had to step to him, right? And they ended up in the middle of the street, 6 shooters on the side, and who always won the gunfight? Marshall Dillon. He always won. And usually it ended up with him killing the other guy. And the reason I bring up Dodge City and Marshall Dillon, you see where all those skyscrapers are?
Oh, wow.
That was where Dallas was. Where we're standing right now, we almost in downtown. But in the early years, this was not even considered Dallas. This was considered the outskirts. And so back to Marshall Dillon, you guys remember he would win the shootout, and then a smaller guy in a dark suit would come up, pick up the body, put it in a coffin, put it on the back of a wagon, and they would take it out of town to bury that body. Did anybody remember why they did that? Why do you think they carried that body out of town? Why didn't they just bury him right there?
He wasn't a citizen.
Huh?
He wasn't a citizen there. He wasn't a citizen in that area.
It wasn't?
He wasn't a citizen.
He wasn't a citizen there.
Well, no. They didn't have embalming technology, right?
Oh.
So they didn't want to bury them and have that smell.
Oh.
And so they took people to the outskirts of town
okay.
and they buried them.
So is that what Boot Hill is?
Huh?
Is that Boot Hill?
Boot Hill is another place, but a similar concept. That's why they take Boot Hill was outside. So, but one thing they didn't do, they didn't bury people of different races in the same cemetery. I know that sounds crazy, but they did not bury people of a different race in the same cemetery. So you can't see it, but there's a cemetery right in front of that bus. You see it? Those headstones? That cemetery is called Emmanuel. If you were Jewish and you died, that was your final resting place. Around the corner, there's a cemetery called Calvary. Calvary is where, if you were white and you died in the early history of Dallas, that was where your final resting place was. Behind me, okay? Where there are no tombstones right now, was the final resting place, and it was called the Colored Cemetery. It's been renamed the Freedman Cemetery, okay? So if you were black and you died, this is where the story ended for you. From 1850 to 1925, for 75 years, they buried black people in this cemetery here. As a matter of fact, behind me is 3 acres. In its original form, the cemetery was 6 acres. The other 3 acres that's missing expanded on the other side of that freeway. And this freeway came through in 1949 and it split this cemetery in half. The other half was lost forever. Where you see that Exxon and that 7-Eleven, that's where. Well, that's a two-part question. So the first part is, in 1949, sadly they didn't do anything with those bodies. So bulldozers came through, dug a hole, put the freeway in. That 3 acres was lost forever. In 1979, a decision was made, and I don't want to get crossways with you guys, but I got to tell the truth.
Tell it like it is.
Okay? When people started moving to Plano, Richardson, Frisco hadn't even been thought about, right? So a decision was made. All the great jobs, the jobs in the bank, the insurance companies, they're located in those skyscrapers. Those people need to have a way to get to those jobs. So we need to expand this freeway. So in the 1970s, you see where the green railing was? A decision was made, we need to put some more lanes in this 75 so those people can get from Plano, Richardson, and eventually Frisco into downtown Dallas. The people who lived in this community, remember, they were all black at that time. Were mostly black. And so they decided, look, we didn't have a voice in the 1940s. We couldn't say anything. But we had Martin Luther King, Civil Rights Act, Voter Rights Act. We're not going to let you come and do us any kind of way. Even if we have to lay down in the middle